Hello, thanks for checking out this video. I'm just going to briefly talk today about Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk, and conspiracy theories and how you should approach conspiracy theories. Candace Owens is an idiot, in my opinion, and a grifter who's trying to make a lot of money from gullible people. And she's always, since Charlie Kirk was killed, she's pushed this idea that he was assassinated, and in her mind it's Israel is behind his assassination. And lately she's been saying that she was tipped off by government authorities that she might potentially get assassinated for talking about this possible connection between Israel and Charlie Kirk's death. And then I see people on Instagram and social media just putting comments under her stuff like, I believe you 100% and this and that. And so I thought this is really important to kind of stress to people. This is how you should think about conspiracy theories broadly. We live in a world where you are surrounded by conspiracy theories all the time. Are conspiracy theories real? Of course. People are conspiring for things with each other all the time. I mean, this happens on a small scale when people want to buy drugs, and it happens on like large scales with governments, and you know governments are full of shit. So, of course there are real conspiracies all around us. At the same time, you don't have an ability to know what those conspiracies are, 99.9% of the time. You are surrounded by conspiracies, and you don't have access to information to know what's going on. You don't. And so the real intelligent way to approach pretty much everything in life, but specifically conspiracy theories, is like as an agnostic person who learns to think as a habit in terms of probabilities, and to demand evidence, and to critically evaluate evidence, and then try to see how strong or what the probabilities are that something happens. So for example, in Charlie Kirk's case, do I think that the official story is what actually happened and just as the government says it did? Personally, I'm extremely skeptical, right? So I learned to think in terms of probabilities. What do I think that the odds are that the official story is true? I would say probably about 1%. Which is almost zero. So I don't think the official story is true personally. But I have no idea what's really going on. I mean, most likely, yeah, it was probably a planned execution for a political reason. I don't know who was behind it exactly. And there are all these different ideas, like, he was questioning Israel, so the Israelis did it, or the CIA. I think more likely that just the CIA probably did it to start setting up a political narrative around like white nationalism and racism and stuff. But, these are just ideas, and, if there's multiple theories, I would try to think which one's more likely. I think it's more likely, personally, much more likely that it's just like the CIA that probably killed Charlie Kirk, more so than like the Israelis or something like that. But I don't know. So it's just, you got to approach these things with, a grain of salt and think in terms of probabilities. Now, the thing with Candace Owens, now she's pushing this narrative that she is been informed that she is, in danger and that she might get assassinated and stuff. And the thing is, she's provided zero evidence for this. We haven't seen it. All she said is, I was told this by some people. Hasn't provided an email or any kind of evidence at all. And yet you can see that the people that support her instantly believe what she's saying with no burden of proof or any kind of evidence at all. I think it's naive to trust her, because if you understand how her business model works and the whole game of what she does, she is a grifter who's provided no evidence for this, and it's just a way to gain support for her and stuff. I think it's kind of ridiculous. I think the odds that she's actually being informed that she's like in danger of being assassinated are probably about 1%, which means like 99% likely that's complete gibberish. And that's just what I think of, because most of these right-wing personalities are either AstroTurf products or just grifters who grift to a public of people who are gullible and naive and just want to believe the things they want to believe. A lot of people don't like Israel, so this will come up and they'll instantly jump on board and be like, yeah, Israel's trying to kill Candace Owens. She's been told this by so-and-so, but there's no evidence for any of this stuff. So it's just kind of silly. So basically, what I would recommend to people is to understand that we live in this world now where you should just be agnostic about almost everything. Every perception is a gamble. That's something that one of my intellectual heroes, Robert Anton Wilson, used to say all the time. He was a polymath, super smart guy, friends with Philip K. Dick. Hopefully you caught my video recently on Philip K. Dick and Blade Runner. But anyway, Robert Anton Wilson would say, every perception is a gamble. Literally, you don't even know a lot of the time if you're hallucinating or not. But that's getting more metaphysical about things. But I mean, like reality in general, you never really know what's going on. So you got to learn to think in terms of probabilities. Demand evidence for things and try to think critically. A lot of people just like conspiracy theories because psychologically it lets them think that they're really smart and they understand things that normies don't, and they're part of a special minority of people who really understand the truth and stuff. And it's weird, like look at the more obvious idiot, like there's psyops everywhere. To clarify, conspiracy theories are real, and you are surrounded constantly by multiple conspiracies that are always competing with each other in the background. It's not like there's one grand conspiracy. But realistically, you don't have a way of ever knowing what's really going on with any of this stuff. And to think that you've stumbled upon some random YouTube channel that's going to have the secret esoteric knowledge to something, or really explain this or that, about a Freemason conspiracy or whatever, it's just idiotic and silly. So really understand that we live in a world where people are always conspiring for power and wealth and whatever. That's human nature. But you don't really have access to the information to ever tell you what's really going on with a lot of these things. So all you can really do is try to appraise evidence, and then try to make, think in terms of probabilities, like how likely is this what's going on, and be skeptical, naturally skeptical of everything. Especially when it's coming from the government or the U.S. government, and it has to do with imperialism and stuff like that. But at the same time, do not assume that you know what's going on because you like how a conspiracy theory sounds, or because it just appeals to your emotional bias or your tribalism or something like that. So I just, for the small minority of people that I might be getting through to with my commentary, that's it, for especially younger people, that's just a tip. Conspiracy theories are real. You don't know what's going on, and you should learn to think in terms of probabilities. So thanks for checking out this video, guys. Hope you subscribe to my channel. See you guys next time.